think you can start.
Yes, sir. So to summarize the previous history, there was a child with antenatal bilateral hydrohydronephrosis with oligohydramnios. He was born preterm. At day 3, creatinine was 2.8 and undergone PUV fulguration on day 4, following which creatinine was not improved and he undergone vesicostomy at day 6 of his life. And at 3 months, his serum creatinine was 0.89 and DMSA done is showing bilateral scars with right kidney, 48%. He was on regular follow-up with the surgeon elsewhere, and he was on creatinine at 1 year, 1, and 2 years, 1.7. He presented to us at the age of 3 years with mother giving history of polydipsia and occasional voids per urethra and continuous leak from vesicostomy site. At 3 years, his serum creatinine was 2.25 and he was already on antihypertensive, calcium and vitamin D supplementation and anticholinergic medication, sir. On blood pressure was 110 by 90 and had stunted growth, and on examination he had phimosis. Vesicostomy was draining well, but bladder was palpable. So on blood and urine.
Let's stop here.
Yes, sir.
A moment. Right? Supposing this child had come to you or was under your follow-up, creatinine had gone up from 1 to 1.7, what would you have done at that point?
Sir, at what age child would have presented?
Whatever age he came to you with. At 1 year or so, he had a creatinine of 1.7, right?
Yes, sir. At 1 age 1 and 2 at 1.7, sir. So I would have re-evaluated to rule out bladder outlet obstruction by MCU and micturating cystourethrogram to look for residual valve, bladder neck hypertrophy, or reflux is there or is resolved. And how is the capacity of the bladder? Then
how do you do the MCU in a child like this?
Sir, at age of 1 year, sir, we usually do suprapubic aspiration of the urine, and from the same needle we instill the contrast.
He already has a vesicostomy.
For the vesicostomy child, sir, I will be introducing a Foley catheter and flate the bulb, and I'll taut the catheter, and from the same catheter I will introduce the contrast in a gravity method, sir.
How
at 1 year,
enough contrast has gone in?
Yes, sir.
How will you know that enough contrast has gone in?
Sir, there is a formula, sir, for infant. It is age in months into 7, or more than 1 year. It is age in years plus 2 into 30.
Okay.
And while performing, sir, I'll be attaching a empty 2 syringe inverted into the Foley catheter.
Okay.
And through that,
understand you want to do a gravity cystogram and an MCU.
Yes, sir.
Right. Supposing the child doesn't provide.
Supposing if child doesn't void, then at least I can have a cystogram image, sir, and to look at the bladder neck. Second, I can do ultrasound pre-post.
Expect the bladder neck in a child who has had a PUV to be normal?
No, sir.
So, is it looking at the bladder neck on an MCU in a child that's not voiding is of no use to you?
Yeah, sir, I can do again. I can do reattempt maybe some other day.
Whatever you reattempt, you might not find the bladder neck opening.
Then, sir, non-invasive method.
Rather than bladder neck, can you look at other things which will give you a better impression?
Yes, sir. Upper tract dilatation, I can see. Bladder capacity, I can see. Pre-post.
Upper tract dilatation. What do you see on MCU?
On MCU, sir, I can reflux, sir.
Yeah. So you can see reflux. What else can you see?
The bladder capacity, irregularity of the bladder.
Okay.
Then I can see posterior urethra if he voids.
So the important things to note are whether the posterior urethra is delineated and whether it is filling with contrast, whether it is still dilated as it was earlier, whether there is reflux, and whether there is any urine coming into the urethra. The child may not void, but you see the child also, you said, has dribbling and occasionally voids despite the vesicostomy. So these are things you can make out. Right. Let's move on.
Yes, sir. Then, sir, on blood investigation, child was anemic and hyperkalemic, and his estimated GFR at age of 3 was 15. And on urine analysis, traces of protein were seen in sterile pyuria with the WBC of 8 to 10.
Why does the child have sterile pyuria?
Sir, he having vesicostomy, sir. Maybe temple collection. Vesicostomy, sir.
Vesicostomy. Okay.
Yes, sir. It is exposed to environment.
What is the worrisome in this slide?
So worrisome because at the 3 years his GFR is already reached end-stage renal disease, sir, with electrolyte disbalance and features of CKD, like example anemia, with some traces of proteinuria also. And hypertension was noted on blood pressure.
What is the significance of proteinuria in someone with end-stage renal disease?
So,
is it one of those things that happens and so we leave it at that? Or does it carry any significance?
So, two things I will see. One is proteinuria is a marker of like a progressive renal disease due to progressive tubular damage. Second, sir, it is a if I am planning a transplant for that patient, I have to go for the native nephrectomy, sir.
Why?
Because of proteinuria, sir.
Proteinuria nephrectomy?
Significant proteinuria, sir, is an indication of native
that is missing here. We don't know how much the proteinuria is. Correct? So if the child has a protein-losing nephropathy, then we would want to do a nephrectomy of the native kidneys.
Yes, sir.
So we need to estimate how much the proteinuria is rather than traces on a stray sample of urine.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
What else is important in the urine?
So, growth of child will be also enhanced, hampered due to
Can you move closer to the mic, come on?
Sir, I think volume.
You sit next to Dr. Prabhu, both of you can speak at the same time.
Yes, sir. I am audible, sir? Is it clear?
Yeah.
So three significance of proteinuria. One is this doing transplant. One is stunted growth, and one is that it will tell me that progressive renopathy, sir, nephropathy.
Right. So what else in urine would be important to you? May not be as important as proteinuria.
Specific gravity will tell me that concentration ability of the kidney, sir.
Okay. We don't expect it to be very high.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But then, yes, specific gravity.
Yes, sir.
Something related to it, which is important when we are contemplating a transplant.
Sir, cast in urine can also tell me some glomerulonephropathy.
For all that, Kamal, cast, high protein, all that, you are anyway planning a native nephrectomy at the time of transplant. Correct? Let us say there is no cast, let us know there is insignificant proteinuria,
Yes,
and let us say hypertension is controlled with medication.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything else about the urine which might want you to consider preemptive nephrectomy? Either preemptive or on-table nephrectomy. We don't do preemptive usually. It's on-table.
urine analysis, sir, or any other
In
investigation?
urine, not
Urine.
analysis. About urine. See, we've been discussing for some time.
Yes, sir.
There are certain clinical tests also which are very useful and contribute in a big way to decision making. Not necessarily the lab investigations alone. So any bedside evaluation possible which will tell us that this is a dangerous pair of native kidneys, even though there is no proteinuria, even though there are no casts.
So dipstick test for cystinuria, or
Sorry?
some dipstick test for crystals in the urine.
No. Kamal, mote karna karo.
Bedside, sir.
I still can't hear you, Kamal. Maybe the others can, I can't.
So the bedside test.
Yeah, which you can do at the bedside. I mean, you don't have to be physically present, but this can be done at the bedside.
The 24
Done
hours.
over a period of time.
The 24-hour urine collection, which tell me
Urine output.
urine
Correct?
output. Yeah,
If the child is diuresing,
diuresis, sir,
that again becomes an indication
for nephrectomy.
for a native nephrectomy,
Yes, sir.
because the child will continue to diurese even after the transplant.
Yes, sir.
And that can cause graft dysfunction,
Yes, sir.
right? Prabhu, you want to add anything?
No, sir. See, most of the problems as per nephrology, that once the transplant kidney is put in place, most of the problems like electrolyte imbalance, polyuria, proteinuria, all will be taken care by the transplanted kidney. So most of it resolve. Even hypertension comes down once you put the native kidney in, transplant kidney in. So there were many indications for nephrectomy earlier. Now they are reducing to where there is a recurrent infection, or there is like polycystic kidneys, where there is a future risk of infection because of immunosuppression, or there is a stone in the kidney. Rather than these biochemical, they say that most of these biochemical parameters improve once you put the transplant kidney in, and it is working well.
Are there any indications, Kamal,
Yes, sir.
for doing a pre-transplant nephrectomy?
So any other indication for doing retransplant in a?
Pre-transplant nephrectomy, that is, your transplant will become safe and will work only if the native kidneys are removed. Otherwise, your graft is in danger.
Sir, you mean only in PUV child or some other patient?
In general, it can happen in PUV children also. It is not disease specific.
Sir, other indication will be like if patient having polycystic kidney disease, large volume, to decrease the volume in the abdomen to place a new kidney. The ipsilateral, I can have to do the nephrectomy, sir. Second thing, sir, if patient is having symptomatic stones in a non-functional kidney, like flank pain is having, or recurrent UTI due to stones, then I have to do the ipsilateral nephrorectomy.
Any other indication?
Yes.
Nayan, do you want to add?
Sir, refractory hypertension is one of the indication for native nephrectomy.
Yeah.
And urological side, if any recurrent UTI history, chronic inflammatory kidney or metabolic evolution, if so, metabolic abnormality leading to stone disease. So these are the urological indications.
Yeah, that yes, sir. Now, let us say on investigation of this patient, not this boy, we're moving a little away, we'll come back to this. On investigation, we find that the patient has primary oxaluria, kidney packed with stones, and renal failure.
So then we have to plan for liver transplant along with the kidney.
Sorry?
So to confirm, I have to do the native kidney biopsy or nephrectomy. And then liver and the renal transplant is combined, sir.
Sorry? Come in again, Kamal.
So to rule out primary oxalosis, I have to do native kidney biopsy or nephrectomy, sir.
No, all that has been done. It is proven. This is primary or hyperoxaluria.
And sir, liver and renal transplant should be combined, sir.
Remember this, we don't have to go into details of liver transplant, but in such a child, if we do only a renal transplant, the graft kidney also is going to be affected by the same disorder. Right, let's come back to this child. No, this is the ultrasound.
So this is after 3 years, the hydronephrosis with the bladder wall thickening, normal, and no PVR, sir.
Is there anything which is at a variance from your physical examination finding?
Yes, sir. Bladder was palpable in that, sir.
So what happened?
But it is emptying in post-void, sir.
Why did it not empty then?
So because vesicostomy is also something like vesicostomy voids. It is not always completely empty.
So what should you do? See, be clear about some things. A vesicostomy void might not be the most efficient void, but it won't give rise to a palpable bladder. Get it?
Yes, sir.
Depending on the age and volume of urine voided, you might find some 10-15 ml remaining behind without getting clear, which happens even in a normal void in a normal child or adult.
Yes, sir. So I would like to check whether vesicostomy is.
The size of the kidney and the parenchyma thickening.
Yes.
The right side which is enlarged and thin, left side is small and with probably the right kidney is on the GPD side.
Yes.
Not the size of. But the right kidney now is smaller.
Yes, sir.
Earlier it was 48%.
48%, sir. At 3 months.
Anyway, this point, there's no point in doing GFR because GFR is already 15.
But I have to check whether my vesicostomy is working well or not.
So you can control anything related to the lower tract, but you cannot control the renal dysplasia.
Yes, sir. Pre-existing renal dysplasia. Yes, sir.
So if you are seeing at this point, what is the aim? What is your aim at this point?
So all my measures will be there to delay the renal replacement therapy.
So is there any reversible element?
So bladder.
Yes. You want the ultimate renal function.
Yes, sir.
Is there any reversible element?
Prabhu, we can't hear you, Prabhu. I can't hear you.
The child has come now. I was asking him, what is your aim at this point in time?
What is the goal? Correct.
What is the goal? So basically, you look at any reversible element.
What could be a commonly found reversible element in a child who's had a valve fulmination? That's your question, correct?
Yes, sir.
So bladder preservation will be the target, sir.
Oh,
Further renal damage.
no, Kamal, wait. You said your primary goal is to look at any reversible element.
Yes, sir.
Which can then be tackled for renal function to improve or to be preserved and to avoid dialysis.
Yes,
I'm asking you, and Dr. Prabhu also asked me the same thing.
Yes, sir.
What are those reversible elements in a child post-PUV which could improve with some intervention?
This child is already, sir, vesicostomy is done. I'll make sure first that vesicostomy is working well or not, draining well or not.
Because,
Because
yeah, Prabhu, go on, Prabhu.
Second thing, sir, polyuria. I have to see. I will check whether polyuria is there or not.
Okay, if there is polyuria, what can you do about it?
Sir, starting with urotherapy, I'll teach the mother that fluid intake should be less.
The child is thirsty here. How can you reduce intake?
Yes, sir.
Creatinine is high, potassium is high, child has got polydipsia.
Yes.
How can you tell the mother to restrict fluids? That will make the creatinine worse. Is this polyuria? See, that's the question you have to ask yourself. Is
Yes,
this
sir.
polyuria the consequence of polydipsia? Get it?
Yes, sir.
Here, is it nephrogenic polyuria or is it psychogenic polyuria?
So it's nephrogenic, sir.
Nephrogenic. So if it is nephrogenic polyuria, are there any measures, medical measures, non-operative measures, which can reduce the polyuria? You said yes, water restriction, provided it is a reasonable option. Here it is not, because the child already has renal failure, hyperkalemia and polydipsia.
Yes, sir.
Irrespective of whether that water is given or not, the child will continue to have polyuria.
Yes, sir.
So,
See, the child is on a vesicostomy. Even if he drinks more, it really does. Basically, in a child who has no vesicostomy, you are interested in time voiding, you are interested in night indwelling catheter, all those things. When a patient is on a vesicostomy, I don't think it is going to, because the child, whatever the output is, it keeps coming out. There's no issue with that. That is no, whether that is going to improve your renal function, I don't think so.
you get it?
Yes, sir. Got it,
With
sir.
closed bladder, we don't want the bladder to hyper distend at night.
Yes, sir.
It cause problem. So we leave a catheter. In an open bladder with a vesicostomy like this, that doesn't hold true anymore. I mean, it doesn't apply. Before transplant, what all will you do? Let us forget all the routine investigation, consultations, fitness, echocardiography, consent, finding donor, donor workup. Let's forget all that.
Yes, sir.
In this child, what all will you do before planning transplant?
So, as we've already done MCU for it, we know that it's a grade 5 VUR, sir.
That's okay.
And with a parenchyma thickness of 0.2, I'll repeat a DMSA and plan for.
You miss it. You miss it.
No, so DMSA not possible. So I'll plan for nephrectomy, right? Kidney nephrectomy and uteroscopy.
I think you're using very drastic measures. Let us come down to simple things. What are the steps to be achieved in a child with a valve bladder before we contemplate transplant? Let us forget the native kidneys.
What do you want? Bladder.
So bladder capacity I want to increase, sir.
What do you?
Augmentation of bladder, sir.
You can increase the bladder capacity to 500. There is still going to be a problem. We discussed this earlier also, how to evaluate a child or an adult with upper tract changes and ureteric dilatation. We discussed supravesical and intravesical obstruction, reflux, so on.
Yes, sir.
You want something to be safe? What do you want? Safe.
Pressure.
So I have to teach the parents CIC, sir. To
Before
post,
starting CIC, what do you want to do? What do you have to do?
because after transplant the output will be more and we have to continue to drain the bladder, sir.
No, Kamal. Before starting CIC, what do you have to confirm?
So I have to confirm there is no bladder outlet obstruction, sir, by doing MCU.
Now do a urodynamics and check for the safe capacity of the bladder.
Yeah, and then further urodynamics, sir.
You want to be sure that
The bladder is safe.
The transplant ureter drains into a safe bladder.
Yes, sir.
That means it is not going to get into trouble. It
Yes.
won't get into trouble again
Yes, sir.
because you have implanted in a bad bladder.
Yes, sir.
There may be outlet problem, or the outlet may be normal, or there may be a poorly compliant bladder. And if you put the kidney
The
transplant
poorly
in a poorly compliant bladder, it is going to get.
We spoke quite some time ago, not quite some time ago, recently. Any evaluation should begin with the lower urinary tract. While fulguration was done, do we know whether it is complete or not?
No, sir.
Do we know whether there is a stricture there or not?
No, sir.
Then can we start CIC without knowing these things?
No, sir.
So we begin with the urethra and the bladder outlet to see whether the valves have been cleared and whether there is a stricture. If there is no stricture, no urethral stenosis at the point where the valves were fulgurated, we can on table pass a catheter. Sorry?
Nothing, sir.
We can at that point on the table also pass a catheter and see the ease with which it goes. Do you anticipate any difficulty in doing CIC in these children? Other than the usual pain, non-cooperation and all that?
Yes, sir. Sir, these patients, urethra is more sensitive, sir.
No, that's okay. That's what I said. Pain and all that is okay.
The bladder neck will be high, CIC will be little difficult, sir.
Yeah.
Or neck hypertrophy will be there.
Bladder neck may not permit high bladder neck or hypertrophied bladder neck.
Yes, sir.
Will not permit easy catheterization.
Yes, sir.
So that is the reason why we will have to do a pan endoscopy to look at all these things and attempt catheterization by ourselves under anesthesia to know whether the catheter goes into the bladder easily. If it doesn't, then we have to plan to make the outlet amenable to CIC.
Yes, sir.
So look at that. With respect to the bladder, what are the things you'd like to know? You said capacity.
Yes,
Fine.
sir.
You've done an MCU on which you can more or less make out capacity.
Yes, sir.
What else do you want to know about the bladder?
So I want to know the compliance of bladder, sir. What is the safe capacity of
How
the
will you
bladder?
know that?
So by urodynamics, sir.
How will you do urodynamics in this child?
So I'll be doing urodynamics in under anesthesia, sir. IV sedation, I mean.
Correct.
But not using muscle relaxant.
Okay.
I'll put a catheter through the vesicostomy, sir,
Okay.
and start filling at 4 or 5 ml per minute.
Urine will start leaking after a while in the vesicostomy.
So I have to check at what pressures the urine is start leaking, at what volume urine is started leaking.
Yeah, maybe at 10-15 ml, you find urine coming out of the bladder. And the bladder pressure is around 10 centimeters of water. Now, I'm bringing this up only to tell you there are situations where doing urodynamics is difficult.
Yes, sir.
So we should know if there are any reported techniques. Please go and read about this. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Please go and read about this. Okay, let's move on. Prabhu, you take
Sir,
over.
video urodynamics would be a better answer in exam, sir. Video urodynamics.
See, you can do urodynamics with video, without video, whatever. But one thing, in children, we prefer not to do video urodynamics unless indicated because of the risk of radiation. Second, the main problem with a vesicostomy is if you occlude the vesicostomy,
Yes, sir.
that will send the bladder pressure up.
Yes, sir.
If you don't occlude the vesicostomy,
Leak.
then the urine will leak.
Yes, sir.
So we have to strike a balance. It's something we do and learn. Very difficult to theoretically say you do this or you do that. So you read, some people have done a few things. Read up so that if you're asked, you'll know. Nobody will hold it against you if you say, sir, I have not done. But you should know what has been done. And you should know that doing urodynamics is difficult for these reasons. In high-grade reflux, vesicostomy, and occlusion increasing the, decreasing the compliance and increasing bladder activity. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah, let's proceed.
Kamal, now you said you want to postpone renal replacement. Now, for some reason, the creatinine is around, GFR is around 15. You are also happy you are postponing. But what is your concern? Now, child is 5 years, 7 years, creatinine is 15. GFR is 15. You are very happy that I am postponing renal replacement. But what is your concern in this child?
I will go in again history and examination to look for any daytime incontinence has been started or not.
You didn't understand the question.
So, what is my concern at 5 years of age?
5,
As the child was
7 years.
What is the concern in a child who has got a EGFR of 15 at this age when you take the decision to postpone renal replacement therapy? That was the question.
Yeah. So my concern is that the growth is stunted growth. Second, bone health of the child. Child is CKD. Second, the uremic risk of the child. All those things I have to take care, sir.
The child also had uncontrolled hypertension.
Even yes, hypertension and proteinuria have to take care.
So the delaying renal replacement is good in adults, whereas in children you may have to do a preemptive transplant because of these issues. The child will be very short. Otherwise, even if you do transplant at a later age, the child won't grow. His height, weight, everything will be affected. So you have to plan sometimes preemptive if there is no improvement in renal function.
Can brain development be affected? The child after all is preschool, only 3 years old.
Yes, sir. Cognition function will also derange, sir.
Why? Go and read up all this, okay?
Yes,
Read from the nephrology books a little about this. You'll need it for your exam, you'll also need it for your practice. Karnakar, Nayan, any of you wants to answer this? Or anybody from Vedanayagam or from Kalyani Kidneys?
Sir, uremic encephalopathy, sir.
Sorry?
Uremic encephalopathy.
Yeah, uremic encephalopathy is an ever-present problem. Correct? Asha sir, anything else? Dr. Harsha?
More on the brain development in children. One of the things is that because blood pressure is never actually checked in children, they think that children don't get hypertension. And one of the features of these patients is fits. And uncontrolled fits also can result in poor brain development because of hypertension. Again, one is uremic encephalopathy and hypertensive sclerosis. They can also get a stroke. So all this will affect the brain development of children.
Okay.
I was getting a little worried because I hadn't heard you for 2 weeks now.
No. I had gone to the other hospital. We had done a radical nephrectomy.
Yeah. No, I was about to inquire if you're okay because everybody seems to be catching something.
Last week I had gone my daughter's 40th birthday, so I had gone to see her. So that was in the hills, and then they locked it down. So
Okay.
Nilgiris.
So, nice to know you're well and back.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's go on, please.
Yes, sir. So initially I managed the child with vasocostomy, sir, folic catheterization, and then the creatinine after 1 week reduced to 1.63, and ultrasound was showing same hydrohydronephrosis, no change in that hydronephrosis. Then the MCU.
Now the parents are asking you, sir, creatinine is coming down. Why do you want to do anything? Wait for some time. maybe it will become normal.
The upper tracts are sir, same dilated, no
They don't
resolution.
understand upper tract node. There is a feedback from somebody's mic.
Yes.
See, they don't understand all this. They are saying you said creatinine is high, you want to do all this. Creatinine is coming down now. So what would be a better measure than creatinine?
Sir, functional study, sir, renal functional study, sir.
Why study again? Is there anything we can do at the bedside, something we can do with a calculator?
Sir, estimate GFR, sir, estimated GFR.
Re-estimate GFR. When you look at it in real terms, 1.63 in a 3-year-old child from 1.95 is not much of a change.
Yes, sir.
So you have to calculate GFR and tell them, this is what it is. It was 15, now it is 15.5, which is hardly anything.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Go on.
The MC was showing, sir, a residual wall, sir, on avoiding.
MCU, you cannot say residual valve. What you can say in MCU is posterior urethra was dilated with an abrupt narrowing, beyond which only a streak of contrast flows.
Yes, with a grade 5 right reflux and small capacity bladder, sir.
The small capacity bladder again is a little tricky
Because
so much has gone into the kidney.
Yes, sir.
Right? But yes, comparatively the capacity might be small. How do you say on MCU capacity is small, large, or all right?
So once the child will have excessive crying on filling, sir.
No, I mean, you're doing it under anesthesia, you said, so no question of
the leaks, sir, from vesicostomy
may not happen.
Okay.
Yeah, even in an adult, let us say, you were not there, they got an MCU done and they're showing you the films.
Yeah.
How do you recognize that the bladder is normal capacity, over distended, smaller capacity, or under distended? How do you make out?
So, bladder capacity can be judged how much is filling the pelvis, sir. Is it partially filling the pelvis, or it is touching the lateral walls, this bones? How close it is to the ischial spine?
Often you won't find the lateral wall a good landmark. What is the landmark which you can use to say, yeah, the bladder is over distended now? Anybody, Dr. Harsha, anybody from Kalyani Kidney Center? Because MCUs and cystograms we see all the time.
Is the bladder a pelvic organ or an abdominal organ?
So it's a pelvic organ, and over distended it will come out.
Pelvic organ in children or in adults?
Sir, sorry, sir?
Is it a pelvic organ in adults or in children?
In adults, sir.
So how will you find out whether in a child it is over distended? Can you calculate the volume of the child's bladder?
Yes, sir. We can calculate the volumes.
So that you know the filling, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And then, if it is riding high,
then good capacity, sir. If it's more than the calculated capacity.
the adult, how will you know that it's actually an over distended bladder? That's what Mohan is asking. The adult, what's the landmark? If it's a pelvic organ, it arises out of the pelvis, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And it become abdominal.
Yes, sir.
You are seeing a serial cystogram, maybe under fluoroscopy, right? 100, 200, 300. So by looking at these serial images, when you are doing it, how will you know this is now full?
What happens to a balloon which is full? I'm blowing a balloon.
Yes.
What happens when it is full of air? Take a football. When it is full of air, how does it look?
The ball will be very much smooth, sir, and hopefully,
How about a rugby ball when it is full? How does that look?
sir, ovoid shape, sir.
Now, bladder, now answer this fellow's question, Prabhu's question. 100 ml, 200 ml, 300 ml.
The shape of the bladder will, sir, will be becoming more ovoid or more globular, sir.
No. Will it become a rugby ball or will it become a football?
The football, sir.
He's asking you know the shape of the bladder. When 100 ml, it is looking very crenated, fluffy. Then a little bit more, it stretches a little bit more, becoming ovoid. Then maybe full bladder, it becomes round.
Yes, sir.
But there is also a catch in this. The catch is in the post-void residual urine film.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes you have a post-void residual urine on a cystogram, and the shape of the bladder on that is indicative in many situations as what is the pressure inside the bladder. So in a post-void X-ray on a cystogram, if the bladder is still maintaining the shape of a football, is round and spherical, it means it's under high pressure. Naturally, isn't it? He's emptying, and when it is under high pressure, the bladder will just become more spherical. When it's under low pressure, it will become floppy.
Yes, sir.
This point was mentioned to me by a very, very, very senior British urologist, one of my gurus. And I started looking at X-ray and said, yeah, this is very significant. Now you go back and look at IVUs and MCUs where the shape of the bladder is absolutely round on the post-void film, and then you will realize what an astute observation that senior urologist made. That's why Prabhu's question is very important as to 100 ml, 200 ml, 300 ml, what is the shape of the bladder?
If at 100 ml the bladder is round, what's your conclusion?
If at 100 ml the bladder is round, then what?
So one is maybe it's a small capacity, maybe it's a high pressure bladder.
Maybe?
It's a high pressure bladder, sir.
Maybe?
Its capacity is low only, sir.
So one thing you can say is capacity is reduced. So what are the consequences of reduced bladder capacity?
Frequency will be increased, sir. You should have frequent words.
We are talking here about the urodynamic behavior of the bladder. Correct? We are doing studies, we've done urodynamics, video urodynamics.
So early over distension and back pressure changes, sir.
What happens to the bladder? We forget everything above and below the bladder. If the bladder at 100 ml is globular in shape, what is the consequence on the bladder?
What will that urodynamic trace look like? That's what you want to know, Mohan, isn't it? Compare the urodynamic trace with the MCU picture. And this is what is video urodynamics all about.
Yes, sir.
So, titrate that, correlate this with that.
So at 100 ml only it will start leaking, sir. Incontinence.
No.
Besides,
Let us assume it's not leaking. It will always leak. See, leaks take place only when the intravesical pressure exceeds the outflow resistance.
Sir, at
Here,
100,
for example, the outflow resistance might be quite high. There might be no leak.
at 100 ml only the pressure will be high and there will be early pinching of the intramural ureter.
Which urodynamic parameter is likely to be affected in a bladder which has become globular at 100 ml filling? Which urodynamic parameter?
Sir, compliance will go.
Yeah, such a simple answer, Kamal.
Iglo is sitting going on and on, but he's giving you so many hints. Huh?
Okay, let's move on.
Then intraoperatively, sir, we use 6 bar 7.5 French the cystoscope sheath, and we found a flimsy structure at the proximal bulbar urethra, but we could negotiate.
What do you mean by flimsy?
It's a very soft and like mucosal fold, like.
So that's not a stricture; it's a mucosal fold.
But since MCU, we were showing some cutoffs at that.
Yeah, that's why you have to be correct in the terminology you use. If you go back to the MCU, how
Yes,
will
sir.
stricture look and how will a mucosal fold look? For that, you'll have to magnify that area and see.
Yes, sir.
How will it look?
So ideally, to differentiate them.
No, not ideal, Kamal.
Yes.
You don't get into all that because even in an exam, you're in trouble.
Okay.
Just say if it is a stricture, it is likely to be, the urethra is likely to be like this. If it is a mucosal fold, the urethra is likely to be like this. We discussed this, I think, 2-3 weeks ago. In a stricture, it is irregular, often it is eccentric, and extends for a certain distance in either side. Whereas, if it is a mucosal fold, the mucosal folds are all around the urethra, right? So it is confined to one particular area. There is no urethral irregularity, but there is hold up of contrast at that point.
Yes, sir.
Right? What happens if there is a residual valve?
So there was no residual wall, sir.
Sorry?
There was no residual wall.
I'm asking you on an MCU,
Yes, sir.
how do you make out if there is a residual valve? See, all this has to be done before cystoscopy, panendoscopy. You can't do panendoscopy without all this information. You're likely to miss important things. You push the scope goes in, and you'll think everything is all right. Which anyway can happen with urethral valves.
Yes, sir. So we during cystoscopy we have to
On MC. On MC.
So it will look as a filling defect, sir,
Not a filling defect. You'll
or
actually
annular some constriction, sir.
you will see that as shouldering,
Shouldering.
right? Because the valve balloons out, which is also what you're looking for when you do cystoscopy, urethroscopy. You don't look at the valves when you're going in, but you're looking at the valves as you come out with a distended bladder trying to push the urine out.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Exactly.
So, just as you find that sail-like appearance which fills up with urine, you'll find it on MCU also. You'll find that there is shouldering and you can actually see nicely like a sail, it butts out. Okay, let's move on.
In the MCU,
Yes, sir.
you see bladder neck hypertrophy.
No, sir. Bladder neck is opening well, sir.
Why is it that we can't comment about this bladder neck?
Then in voiding films, the bladder neck is opening well, sir. Posterior urethra is dilated.
In which projection
In which,
is it best noted, the bladder neck?
sir, oblique images, sir.
No, then why are we not finding it here? You've done a bladder neck resection. So what is the evidence that the child required bladder neck resection?
So at Viru,
Yeah, others can pitch in. Don't leave Kamal alone to answer.
So at-
Come on, guys.
so at Viru, if I'm looking at the bladder neck was not opening well, sir. The
Okay, so characteristically, how does the bladder neck appear on a mixture-eating cystourethrogram? A hypertrophic bladder neck, how does it appear?
shouldering will be there, sir.
It appears like a collar, correct? Often you'll find there is some kind of a cutoff between the bladder base and the posterior urethra. As if there is a ring sitting there which is blocking the passage of contrast. Okay. Here we are not seeing it because there is too much contrast.
Yes, sir.
Sir, maybe because of the reflex also, you're not able to comment on the bladder neck because in the voiding film, almost the 3/4 of the contrast is reflexing into the right ureter.
Agreed.
That could be the reason that may not be the bladder neck being more delineated.
But when we look at the film on the right,
Sir.
contrast is coming into the urethra. Posterior urethra is dilated. So I think the bladder base has got too much contrast and is masking the hypertrophy. But I agree with you. If everything is going into the kidney, you might not see that collar around the bladder neck.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on.
Yes, sir. So, we performed.
Okay. Whoever writes the operative notes, don't use professorial language like flimsy stricture. Either the stricture is possible, not possible. Is it
Possible.
accepted, or is it in the center? That's all matters.
Okay, sir. We performed the circumcision and bladder neck incision.
Why circumcision? We didn't see the trapezial sac ballooning up on MCU. Why was the circumcision required?
Was it ritual circumcision? Or was it prophylactic?
Sir, it is prophylactic, sir.
And the bladder neck incision also is prophylactic.
Ritual.
Bladder neck incision. Is that also prophylactic?
No, sir, we found hypertrophy, sir, during cystoscopy. And we want easy calibration also. So it will help us both ways.
See, bladder neck will be hypertrophic in everybody who's had a valve.
Yeah.
Should you?
Is it obstructed or not obstructed? And that requires
Sir,
other has to decide whether you need to do something to that bladder neck.
so we occluded the vesicostomy stoma and pressed the bladder. The stream was not good also,
Okay.
which improved after BNI, sir.
So it's a visual. Did you do both sides incision or one side incision?
So only, sir, at 6 o'clock, sir.
6 o'clock. Right.
Praveen, I want to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Small one before we move. Why 6 o'clock? Why not the traditional 5 and 7? Which is where we do bladder neck incisions.
So we usually follow, sir, 6 or
Right?
3
We
and 9.
usually follow 6 and not 5 and 7.
So,
Usually blood vessels are there are 5 and 6.
No. In that case, for everybody, we should do at 6 o'clock. In children with valves, particularly, we don't do at 5 and 7, but do at 6. Why? How many of you have done bladder neck incisions and seen in adults for a hypertrophic bladder neck or a high bladder neck or a bladder neck contracture?
I and Samaji both has done, sir.
You've done. So what did you find after you gave the incisions at 5 and 7?
So the bladder neck is at the level of the bladder base, sir. I could see the.
No. Endoscopically, what did you find? Just given the incisions,
Yes,
you're
sir.
looking around to see if there is any bleeding, anything. And what do you find usually?
So the prostatic urethra and the bladder base are at same level, sir. Almost at the same level.
Never, unless it's a contracture, They are never at the same level.
So here they are made to do incisions at 6 o'clock. So that's why he is getting confused. If you make incisions at 5 and 7 o'clock, what will you find? What will happen to the tissue at the floor? Anybody else?
So it will get necrosed because of the blood supply being cut off. Can leave it like that.
How can it get necrosed?
See, there is no blood supply cut off in the incision, and you still have blood supply coming from all over the prostate. These are not end arteries. And as far as possible, there is no need to go to the arteries when you do a bladonic incision. What happens is, if you do it at 5 and 7, the tissue in the floor falls down, and that obstructs the bladder neck. That obstructs the bladder outlet. And this tissue can be a nuisance. So invariably, if you do a bladder neck incision in an adult, you look out for this tissue and resect whatever is coming up into the lumen out, so that then you can see the bladder easily and there won't be any obstruction, especially if you want to do CIC later. We do it at 6 because then the prostatic tissue will move up laterally. The floor becomes clear and catheterization is easy. Did you get it?
Yes, sir.
So next time, all of you, when you do your bladonic incisions, observe what happens. And this is in every surgery, we have to observe what happens with what we do, even though we might have been told do this.
I think most of the residents know that if you do, there's an operation called TURBNI, TURBNI.
Yes, sir.
Because of this bulge of the tissue, it looks obstructive, and therefore you want to resect it to smoothen it out. So that's why this operation is labeled as TURBNI or vice versa. Sometimes after a regular TURP, you will find that the bladder neck is not open, it's still a little rigid. And then you go ahead and willfully do the relaxing incision at 3 and 9 o'clock or wherever you feel comfortable with. And then you can see that it actually springs open. If you observe carefully, these smaller, it's not very big glands, but sometimes some of these glands do have, I'm talking of the adult, I'm not talking of children. And then you'll find that the bladder neck fibers are still quite rigid. So you do an incision at that point. This has also been described. So
in the days of open prostatectomy, this used to be common. You remove the prostate, you've done everything, and then the patient comes 3 weeks later, that his stream is slow again. You find that the neck has become rigid, releasing incisions are given, and then it becomes rigid.
in fact, in open prostatectomy, the operation that was described was you remove, denucleate the prostate, then you do a bladder neck resection, wedge resection of the bladder neck, it used to be called, then retrigonization of the prostatic fossa, and then closure of the capsule. These are the steps of the open operation. So once you wedge resect, that means you have these clamps, you lift up the bladder neck and cut it as a wedge. Then the trigonal mucosa is then stitched onto the prostatic fossa to enable faster healing. This is what Mohan is talking about, resection of the bladder neck in open prostatectomy.
Okay, let's move on.
Yes, sir. So at 1 month, the creatinine was 2.3, and there was no leak from the vesicostomy, and child was voiding well, weight improved, and the ultrasound when hydroeuteronephrosis also reduced. And the father we taught him he could do a calibration, sir.
Okay. Now let's move ahead with your management because we are nearing the end of time.
Yes, sir. That we discussed, sir.
Sure.
discussion for the
What is
further.
your plan next?
What is your plan?
So my plan will be in bladder function preservation, sir. I will ask for the same urotherapy to the parents and ask them for the note down for polyuria, sir. What is the volume at the night and what is the volume at the daytime, sir? By bladder dairy. No, he is voiding from down, sir. Vesicostomy is not leaking.
There are some things which we have to attend to, correct? One is whether the vesicostomy is required. Before that, we need to know whether voiding from the urethra is possible or CIC regularly is possible. Once a day calibration is not adequate, we'll have to put the child on CIC. Third, we have to know whether the improvement is such that there are prospects of further improvement and we can put off the planned transplantation to a later date. So how do we determine this?
Sir, regarding transplant, sir,
Answer my first question first.
What, sir?
I said there are three issues.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
One is whether and when to close the vesicostomy.
Yes.
The second is whether the urethra is adequate for a void or CIC must be continued. And three, if there is improvement in creatinine, how long to wait before the transplant? First question, can you close the vesicostomy?
Sir, I have to close the vesicostomy and this school going before school going age, sir. This 3 to 5 years of it.
Okay, can we do it now?
Sir, I will make sure first the child is voiding well, sir. Plus the bladder is safe.
बड़े-बड़े बातें नहीं use करना.
So, I'll do urodynamics, sir, before closure of the vesicostomy, sir.
See, we can't keep on doing urodynamics, Kamal. Okay, a lot of these decisions have to be taken clinically at the bedside, depending on what are all those various charts that we have in the case file show. What is the voided volume? Is there any residue? Has the vesicostomy turned dry? Or is the bulk of the urine coming out of the urethra and the vesicostomy only has got a few drops at a time? Is the creatinine continuing to come down? Of course, the other things like better feeding and more activity. These are the things which will tell us, first of all, that things are improving.
Yes.
Considering the history of the child and what all happened, I would be happier doing intermittent catheterization up to the point that we decide vesicostomy can be closed. Once the closed vesicostomy has healed, then we can look for spontaneous voiding, and if there is a residue, we continue CIC because we have to keep the bladder sterile and we have to keep the bladder empty. The third question is, for how long, if there is improvement, can we postpone the transplant? Nayan or Karunakar, maybe you should answer this question.
Sir, the growth of the based upon the height and weight of the child and growth, we can plan the transplant, sir.
So if the child is growing, no transplant. Or child is not growing, then no transplant. How is it? You have to be clear. Explain the whole thing. You said growth. So what role does growth have to play in the decision to subject the child to a transplant?
Sir, we need to check that whether the transplant kidney is amenable to be placed and close the abdomen. That is also one of the concerns prior to transplant.
No, for that, there are many ways in which we do that, isn't it? It need not necessarily be that there has to be place in the iliac fossa. In a child,
Whether the outflow and the bladder is addressed, since the child is now on a daily self-calibration, no issues with the outflow should be there. Then at that point of time also I plan my transplant.
fair enough. We've established that the outflow is all right. Either he's voiding well or CIC is well established. Parents are motivated, child is accepted. So we say, okay, we'll keep this child on CIC because we're not sure of the compliance in the bladder. So what is the next parameter which influences decision to do a transplant? Which is what the parents are going to be asking you. Can we put it off? Or you said it was urgent. Now why are you saying put it off?
What other parameter of growth are we looking at here? In a child. Have you seen that chart in the pediatrics department? They have a chart separate for girls, separate for boys.
Growth chart, sir.
Two parameters are looked at. What are those parameters?
Weight and height.
Weight and height.
Yes. The weight should be between 15th percentile to 85th percentile, 85th percentile.
Fair enough. That is for the child. Now we are looking at this child. We are looking specifically at this child who has got renal failure and now is being planned for a transplant, as Dr. Mohan says. What are the parameters that you would like to look at, or the parent is saying, when are you going to do the transplant? Is a question that has been asked. So I gave you a hint just to look at the chart and what are the parameters of the chart. So use that and try to answer the question. And why is it important that will the height of this child increase at all? What is the usual? Dr. Prabhu mentioned this in the beginning of the classes.
He is 75 centimeters at 3 and a half, sir.
How will we know whether there is a prospect of skeletal growth? You're taking us all over the place. Come on, your own doing. See, why don't they grow? Because the epiphysis is prematurely closed.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
So if there is weight gain, if there is height gain, it means that the reversal of renal failure is still having beneficial effects on the skeletal system. Right? What else are favorable factors for continuing the way we are? Will transplant reduce the increase in weight? Will it take it back to the old stunted growth?
The stunted growth which is done will not be replaced, sir.
Correct. After transplant, what happens to the height? That is what Dr. Ganesh was asking. You said height is one of the parameters.
Yes.
So what do you expect the height to be after transplant? 3 options: lower than before, same as before, taller than before.
So till puberty, sir, how early we are doing before puberty also matters. The height growth is noted till puberty, sir.
Yeah. We might have to counsel the parents,
yes,
the relatives, that the child don't be the same height as others of that age. But yes, we can anticipate a little increase, provided all other parameters are okay. What else? What other factors will determine that we can postpone transplant or we have to do it? Anybody else, please pitch in?
So if GFR is stable and the child is not developing any uremic symptoms.
Okay, then what do we do?
So if there is we notice that BP is higher, proteinuria is increasing, we'll involve a pediatric nephrologist and further plan for transplant, sir. This is a multidisciplinary.
You may not have a pediatric nephrologist. You have to take the decision. Some fellow from the next town comes once a month. He'll give you advice and go away. You don't have a pediatric nephrologist in your hospital.
Sir, polyuria, sir, if there is polyuria has been corrected or no?
Yeah, if decision for transplant. Transplant might change polyuria, might not.
You don't look at only one parameter when you're making a decision. You look at both clinical and biochemical parameters in these children to decide whether you want to go ahead for transplant. Clinical parameters are by and large the most useful when you're looking at the child's growth, not only looking at the height, which is unlikely to shoot up like other children, but what is more important is, well, are they putting on weight? You will find two groups of children in this category. One is whose weight is always very low. Whatever they do, they are just skin and bone.
Yes, sir.
And another group of children is where they are putting on weight. Then you look at whether as a result of this no weight gain, there is a kid who is not putting on weight, are they having the uremic syndrome? See, uremia, we discussed, is a terrible situation. Not only is there uremic encephalopathy, there is uremic cardiomyopathy, neuropathy, everything. And as a result of which you don't eat. Whatever you eat is wasted. It's just, so there's no growth at all. So the weight of the child will remain. And that's a very difficult decision because you may then have to initiate the child on dialysis to improve the uremic syndrome, increase the weight of the child, and then go ahead and do whatever else you want to do to put a new kidney in. Otherwise, as Prabhu alluded to in the earlier point, in children, we try to avoid doing dialysis simply because of various other issues. So if the child is growing well, you reach a point where you think, okay, now this is necessary, then you do a preemptive transplant.
Yes.
Otherwise, as long as the kid is maintaining his growth, his weight, and appetite, and everything else, you try to pull along on his old kidneys. Mohan Rao always used to say, your old kidney, the lousy one, is always better than somebody else's. Because you will initiate a new set of problems in a kidney which is transplanted. With immunosuppression, with infection, and all sorts of other things can happen. So keep going, but don't go along too much, because you might then tip the balance and then not gain the benefit of transplant, especially in children. Children do exceedingly well with the transplant, and therefore the timing is very vital for you to make that decision. Invariably in India, with our type of protein, calorie malnutrition, etc., children's weights don't go up, and we like to have a weight around about 15 kg before we actually transplant them. And sometimes it can be exceedingly difficult to get these kids up to 15 kg. This is where dialysis can come in, and you may get from 10 kg. It's not that you cannot do a transplant in a 10 kg child. It's just that you need much more. You need a good anesthetist. The biggest problem is going to be the weight of the kidney that is going to be put inside the small baby, which is 10 kg, and the perfusion which that big kidney requires. The blood pressure of this child may not be able to drive that. You see, so that kidney will be limping along, and you'll never get the GFR that is expected. So you have to be sure that you have good blood flow into this kidney. So this is very, very, very important.
Yes, sir.
Growth of the child, the weight of the child is quite important in this situation. So 10 to 15 kg is a very gray area. There are very few centers in the world where they actually specialize in doing transplant in less than 10 kg children. You look at the data, you'll find out. There are very few centers, there are very few people who are very specialized centers. So, and it's not something that can be taken lightly at all. So from a personal point of view, I wait till the child is 15 kg. And if the child cannot reach 15, the lowest I've gone is 13 kg. But if they don't reach 15, then you have to initiate them on peritoneal dialysis, because that's better in children.
Yes, sir.
CAPD is far better in children, and then they grow, and then bang, you put a kidney and thread time. So it's as Mohan said, it's all clinical decisions. Most of the time it's clinical. If the child is getting recurrent UTIs and all the rest of it, then you treat the UTIs with whatever you want to do. Either take out a lousy kidney or do the bladder which is poorly compliant. All those things have to be addressed before.
Any other questions from anybody? I think all of you should write this down because we don't often encounter pediatric renal failure due to surgical causes. So when we have a patient on hand, we should be able to manage and manage well. We may not have the luxury of referring them to other places. And we might lose time and the child if we delay referral. Any questions, anybody? Manish, you want to add anything?
No, sir.
Prabhu?
No, sir.
Dr. Prabhakar, anything? Okay, then can we close this session?
Yes, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.